All right, as we are continuing in our Hilchot Leil Seder, up to Rochza. The Gemara asks, why am I washing my hands a second time? I already washed my hands at Urchatz. The Gemara says, because during the time of Magid, and during the time that he's saying Hallel in Magid, maybe he didn't pay attention to his hands, and his hands went somewhere that became Tameh, and therefore he needs to wash his hands again when he comes to Rochza. The Shibbolei Haleket says, so it seems to be that it all depends on your Hesach Hadat, if you paid attention or not. So therefore, if you paid attention from Urchatz, and you wash your hands at Urchatz, and now you know 100% sure your hands didn't get into Mitameh, now that it's Rachsa, your hands have been good the whole time, you do not have to wash again. The Beit Yosef says, even though this is true, a person should not on purpose do that to set himself up not to wash his hands again a second time. Because the Chachamim were mitaken that the Leil HaSeder should have two washings. Also, you want the children to ask and see. So therefore, you don't want to lose that ability. Now, the Mishnah Berurah is dealing, what happens is the person did wash his hands and watch them and make sure that they did not touch Tameh from Urchatz, and now he's up to Rachza. So the Mishnah Berurah says that he would wash again, and he would wash without a bracha. So he washed Urchatz without a bracha, but then he made sure his hands were good, right? And now he's up to Rachza, and he didn't mitam anything. He would wash again. This time he wouldn't say a bracha. His hands earlier were still good. He says, however, he says the best option to do is to touch something tameh, and now you'll be forced to wash your hands again, and this time you say a bracha. So that's what the Mishnah Berurah says. So the guy washed his hands. He made sure that the whole magid, the whole time his hands were clean. Now he comes to Rochza. He's not supposed to wash because his hands were clean. He didn't get anything problem. So the Mishnah Berurah says, advice, touch something tameh, and then go ahead and wash again. Now, the Yalkut Yosef says the opposite way. He says over here, he must not purposely dirty his hands by touching shoes or any other way in order to make himself say a bracha. If someone would do this, he would be saying a bracha levatala because he doesn't need this bracha. And now he's causing himself to say this bracha is a bracha levatala. That's what he says over here. So he says that if you came to Rochza and your hands were clean the whole time, you just don't say a bracha again. You just wash your hands without saying your bracha again. However, he says, everyone today washes their hands with the bracha because, as the Beit Yosef said, we don't make sure our hands are clean. And during Magid, pay attention to your hands. You'll see where your hands end up, right? Your hands are in your ears, your hands are on your head, you're scratching here, touching this, touching that. By the time it comes to wash again, everyone has to wash again. We mentioned earlier back at the Urchatz that if a person washes hands at Urchatz and he said Nitilat Yadayim, right? He's not supposed to say Nitilat Yadayim at Urchatz, and he washes his hands and said Nitilat Yadayim, then he would wash again at Rochza and say Nitilat Yadayim again. Why? Because during that time, again, he touched other places and he had Hesach Dat, so now he would have to wash his hands a second time with a bracha. Okay? That is Rochza. So Rochza is very simple. Wash your hands, say a bracha. Don't pay attention to your hands throughout Urchatz to Rochza. Let them go around to different places. So this way, when it comes time to wash, you have to wash. Okay. Now we're going to go to the next siman in the Seder. So you have Rochza. You come now to Mosi Matzah. So you have Mosi Matzah. He starts off over here. Amar Rava. He brings the Gemara. Pesach Pesachim, Daf Kuf Chav. Matzah bezman hazeh de oraita. There's one opinion that says matzah today is a Torah obligation. Umaror de Rabbanan. But the maror is a mitzvah de Rabbanan. Now, mashna maror dechtiv. What's the difference in maror? It says over there, al matzot umurim. Bezman dika Pesach. It says matzah umorer, right? You eat matzah with maror in the Pesach. So when you have the Pesach, yesh maror. was man deleka Pesach leka maror matzah nami. Hakativ al matzot u'menurim. It says eat the carbon Pesach with the matzah maror. So just like maror needs to be with the carbon Pesach, so too matzah should only be chayav deoraita when you have a carbon Pesach. Today we don't have a carbon Pesach. Maror is derabanan. Matzah should also be derabanan. Maror says matzah mi'adar hadar bet kara be'erev tochulu matzot. You have another pasuk that says in the evening you eat matzot. Therefore, you have another place that says it is deoraita. Another pasuk says in the evening you would eat matzah. Doesn't talk about Pesach. Doesn't talk about maror. Doesn't talk about korban. Doesn't talk about maror. It says to eat matzah. That is your source. That today matzah is deoraita. However, there's another opinion. Rav Acha bar Yaakov Amar echad zeh ve'echad zeh d'Rabanan. Rav Acha bar Yaakov says no, both matzah umaror, everything is d'Rabanan today. What do we hold like? What do we hold like? The Rambam, what does the Rambam say? Mitzvat aseh min haTorah lechol matzah belel hamisha asa shneimar be'erev tochelu matzot. It says in pasuk in the evening you're going to eat matzot. This is a deoraita obligation that we eat matzah is deoraita b'chol bakom u'chol ziman, in every place and all the time, in all the years. V'lo taleh achila zu b'korban Pesach, and it is not dependent on the carbon Pesach. Elazu mitzvah mipnei atzma. Rather, this is its own mitzvah. U'mitzvata kol halayla, and the mitzvah is the whole night. Aval b'shar haregel, but during the rest of the Yom Tov, achilat matzah reshut. Achilat matzah is whatever you want it to be. You want matzah ochel matzah, matzah ochel ores. You want to eat matzah, eat matzah. You want to eat rice, eat rice. Aval beleh hamisha asar bilvad. But on the 15th night, chovah, it's an obligation. Mishachal kezayit yatsa yedei chovato. And once you eat a kezayit, your yatsa yedei chovah, you fulfill your obligation. Remember, there's no such thing as considered eating less than a kezayit. So if you have to eat something, you have to eat a kezayit. So the Rambam says, very pashut, very simple, very straightforward, that matzah on Pesach night is deoraita. You have to eat a kezayit of it. Okay? And it's not totally in the mitzvah of carbon Pesach, the cloud. All right. Now, you take a look at our ka'arot, right? Our Seder. We have 3 matzot, right? There's actually, if you, I don't remember where I saw it, but the Vilna Gaon actually didn't have 3 matzot in his Seder plate. He only used 2 matzot. Okay? He only had 2 matzot on his Seder plate. We use 3. I think everyone else uses 3. Because those who follow the Vilna Gaon would use 2. It's based on the fact.
It's brought to Maserav.
Maserav, yes. Yeah, according to Maserav, that's right. So, Amen. Amen. It's based on the Rashi. Okay, it's based on the Rashi in Masechet Pesachim. What's really going on is as follows: when we make bracha hamotzi during the year, Shabbat, Yom Tov, how many matzot are we using? How many chalot are we using? 2. Lechem Mishnah. You need to have double portion, right? The month came down, you got 2 for the 2, right? So you have Lechem Mishnah. Pesach by night, we are breaking one of those matzot, right? We're breaking one, right? Taking the middle matzah. Before we get to hamotzi, we're breaking it. So Rashi is going to say, since we're breaking the middle matzah, right, the second matzah, so when you're going to make Lechem Mishnah, you need to have 2 whole matzot. Got to have a 3rd matzah. In the Ka'ara, you have to have 3. So let's take a look at Rashi. We're looking at Rashi. This is Tzachim Kuf Tet Zayin. He says over here as follows. It's Rashi Afkam Beprusa. You also need a broken piece. So he says, Levarech al Achilat Matzah. To recite Achilat Matzah, you're doing it on the broken piece. Al Achilat Matzah, because that's the way you eat matzah. Kelechem oni, right? You're putting a little bit now, and the rest you're putting to the side, right? V'shtei shlemot, you also need 2 full matzot, meshum berkat hamotzi, Logar mishayim tovim shetzarich lifto al shtei krichot shleimot, u'otzah me'achat me'hashleimot. And then when he makes the hamotzi, he's going to break from one of the whole matzot. So Rashi says the achilat matzah is going on the prusa, the broken part, and then you have to make hamotzi on the other two matzot.
Just like hold the half.
So how do we do it? Lamaisa, how do we do it? We hold all three, right? And we say hamotzi lachem and arts.
Both
You
brachos.
drop one.
Then you drop one, and then you say the bracha of al achilat matzah, right? So what's happening? You're making the bracha hamotzi lachem on two full ones. You don't see the middle one, right? It's two full ones. And then you put it down, and now you're making the bracha al achilat matzah on the prusa, on the part that is the broken piece. Okay, that's the way Rashi seems to be saying it. The Rambam he brings over here says different. The Rambam says, he washes his hand a second time. That's what we just learned. He already has that broken one. He puts it under the shalem. So the Rambam, from the way he's bringing down the Rambam here, the Rambam says you don't need a second one to make a motzi lachem in aretz. You have the broken one and the full one. You make a motzi lachem like that. So based on that, that's what the Maaseh Rav, that's the Vilna Gaon shita of having the two. You don't need a third matzah. You're making a motzi according to Rambam on the one whole one and the one broken one. What does the Rosh say? The Rosh says, and this is what we do, halacha. Hilchach nogu ha'am lasot shlosh matzot. You take three matzot, otan shlosh matzot, yivatzah shniya l'shnayim, ve'yishmor chatziyah la'afikomin, ve'nir chatziyah ben shtei hashlemot. So he takes one by yachatz, you break it in half, one for the afikomin, one for you leave inside. Va'al harishona. Now the Rosh says, now that you have three matzot, every matzah has to be used for a mitzvah. You can't just not stam putting matzot in the kara. Right? You don't take the whole box of matzot and put it in there. Oh, I need all these matzot. There's three matzot there. Why? Because each matzah is going to be associated with a mitzvah. So what do? Now, apparently at the top one, you're saying hamotzi. On the middle matzah, which is the broken one, you're making al achilat matzah. And this is the main part from the Rush that really gets us into kind of a little bit having to eat more than a kazayit, according to some opinions, because it says ve'ochlin biyachad mikol achat kazayit. You have to eat together from each a kazayit. That lashon of the Rush seems to be saying you have to eat a kazayit from the prusa as well as the top matzah. Okay, so that's where that comes in from. So he says the first matzah is hamotzi, the middle matzah, the broken matzah is alichilat. You make the sandwich like Hillel. The kivan, the tikun shlosh. Since they said you need to have three, according to Rashi, mikol chad navid ba mitzvah. You need to have a mitzvah with each one of them. Mitzvah chada. V'harotzel et set yidei chovat shneim yorech hamotzi v'alichat matzav yitzam min hashlema min ha'prusa ke'echad. The one who wants to properly fill both obligations should recite the bracha of hamotzi and achilat matzah, and then cut up both the whole matzah and the broken matzah. So, what do we have here coming out? What we have is like we do. That's pretty much what we do. We take our three matzot, we make the bracha hamotzi on two shlemot. We put down the third one. Now you're holding the top two. Make achilat matzah, which is on the second piece that's broken, and then we take from two of the pieces and we give it to everyone. Okay.
That's not enough.
You take from the top, a kazayit, and you take from the bottom one, from the half, and you give everybody a kazayit from both halves, from both matzot. Now, obviously, you're not going to have enough, right? So let's take a look 1 second over here. He brings down the Bach over here. The Bach has a question. Based on this part of the Rush that said you have to eat a kazayit from each one, The Bach he says I can't understand this. He says when you say al achilat matzah, right? We said achilat can never be less than a kazayit. So I understand why you have to eat a kazayit. But when I say hamotzi, I don't have to eat a kazayit. I'm saying hamotzi, I'm eating bread. I don't have to make. Why is the Rosh say I need to eat a kazayit from both the hamotzi matzah and then I need to eat a kazayit from the al-chilat matzah? Achal matzah, I understand. You need achila, but hamotzi is hamotzi. I say hamotzi and whatever much bread I'm going to eat. So what does the Shulchan Aruch say lahalacham? He says v'yochalam ba'aseva v'yachad kazayit mikol echad. Shulchan Aruch brings lachatchila. A person is supposed to eat a kazayit from the top matzah and from the middle matzah. But if you can't eat them two together, yachal shel hamotzi tchila v'achar kach shel achilat matzah. So what does he do? He eats first the kazayit from the hamotzi matzah, and then he eats the kazayit from the achilat matzah. Achilat matzah. So what we're coming out with so far is that you really need to eat two kazaytim of matzah by motzi matzah. You need to eat a kazayit for the hamotzi matzah. You need to eat a kazayit for the achilat matzah. Now he brings the Mishnah Berurah.
And then to everybody else figure from the back.
So we're gonna get. I'm gonna show you that. That's gonna be in the Yalkut Yosef. He's gonna say how to do it. We're gonna see that in a second.
Cool. Question.
Yes, Avram.
If a person didn't do the whole Seder or the proper breaking or the order, is he yotze the mitzvah for Pesach night or no?
Say again. I can't hear what you said.
If the person didn't do the whole Seder, the proper order.
The proper order?
Yeah. What goes first, the second or third, washing, this, that. You still count as if you did the proper Pesach Seder?
As long as he, I mean, I don't know why he's not doing it in order, but if he ate maror and he ate matzah and he drank the 4 kosot, technically he was yotzei as mitzvot. We have a Seder to be a Seder, but you need to also, if you had those 4 things in and he had everything in, the man say he did it. Why he had such a case?
No, I'm just asking, for educational purposes.
Yeah. It's if you had kavanah to eat matzah for matzah, and you had kavanah to eat mara for mara, and you had kavanah to the 4 arba kosot, then it should be okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
as long as you do the arba kosot,
not recommended, but technically he would be yotzei as mitzvot.
You just gotta do the 4 cups. You gotta lean. You gotta do the halal, right? The whole magid.
Yes.
And that's it pretty much.
Don't forget the frogs.
Don't just forget frogs. Okay, let's just see what the Mishnah Berurah says over here. He says, "Mina prusa bevadei tzarich kazayit. The hamivarchen al chilat matzah. You said al chilat matzah on the prusa, so you definitely need to have there. Ve'en achila v'chuta mikazayit. You don't have it ever less than a kazayit. Aval prusat hamotzi." He says, regarding the broken matzah used for motzi, we will hold that we recite a bracha motzi even less than over kazayit. Ever since there are some poskim that hold that the bracha of a motzi is recited on the second matzah, and al-chilat matzah is on the first matzah, and some hold the other way around. So therefore, you should eat a kazayit from both. So Mishnah Berurah says you're right. He says to the Bach, you're right. He says, really, hamotzi, you don't have to eat a kazayit. But the reason why you eat a kazayit from both, because some poskim say it's the top matzah, that's the al-chilat matzah. And there are some poskim who say the second matzah is the al-chilat matzah. So if you're coming out that it could be either or as al-chilat matzah. So then you would need to eat a kazayit from each one according to that opinion. But then the Mishnah Berurah says, v'achar kach shal-chilat matzah, v'di'avad im achal kazayit echad min hashlema umin haprusa yatsa. But if he ate just one kazayit, he is yatsa.
That's how we learn. Use one kazayit.
One kazayit, yatsa. However, lechatchila, he should eat both. Now, when I read to you on the Yalkut Yosef, what he says over here, he says, so he picks up the 3 matzot, right? He says the bracha motzi. He puts down the bottom matzah and recites the second bracha of achilat matzah. Now he should take a piece equal to the kazayit from the top matzah and the kazayit from the broken matzah, dip them into salt, and he eats them, leaning on his left. If you can't eat them both together, he eats first the top matzah, the Shulchan Aruch said, and then he eats from the second matzah. If he eats only a kazayit altogether, leave the 2 pieces, he is yatsa midi avad. After the fact, it is okay.
Put avocado in matzah and eat it.
No.
Eat matzah by itself.
Yeah. Yeah, you eat matzah by itself. By motzi matzah, you have to eat matzah by itself. You have to taste the matzah. If you're going to put something on it, you're masquerading the taste, so you're not eating matzah. Okay. Now, if there are a lot of people at the Seder table, he should distribute a kazayit from the middle matzah to as many people as allowable, and then use other shmura matzah. He says the stringency, this chumrah to eat 2 kazayitim, is only if you're really eating from the actual matzot that were on the ka'ara. If you're taking shmura matzah and you from outside the ka'ara and you're giving it, now there is no more an obligation to eat 2 kazayitim. The whole thing is because you have the top matzah and the middle matzah. Which one is the achilat matzah? So you say both, you eat a kazayit from both. But if you're going to get...
Because it works if you're husband and wife only.
Oh, so Rabbi Akiva Eger, based on what you said, Rabbi Akiva Eger says that the leader of the Seder is the one who should eat the 2 kazaytim. And Rabbi Eliashiv agreed to this also. So the Baal has said there, he should make sure he gets a kazayit from the top matzah and a kazayit from the middle matzah. He eats the 2 kazaytim, and he gives everybody else from the shmura matzah, and they only have to eat 1 kazayit. Okay? Now, what's important to remember also when eating this is that, first of all, how much is a kazayit? It's about 27 grams. Even though usually we do in volume, we also, he says over here, technically, all measurements are in volume and not weight. Nevertheless, the common practice is to deal with the food's weight rather than its volume. So therefore, we check to see 28 grams. That's how much, 27, 28 grams. That's how much a kazayit is. So if you're eating 2 kazayitim, so it's almost about 60 grams you have to eat. And you have to eat it, technically, best to eat it within 4 minutes. If you cannot do it within 4 minutes, up to 7 minutes, 6 to 7 minutes.
So that's like a whole matzah. If you say two kazayit, like one round thin matzah, no?
No, I think they say one round thin one. A round thin one might be a little different.
Like the regular dry one.
Ariel, usually they say like a regular matzah, the round one is about 3 kazaytim in 1 matzah, right?
So, yeah, we were measuring with the shatter matzah. It usually comes out the third. Like one matzah has 3 kazaytim, so it's usually like a person's palm.
Person's palm. Okay.
This was the usual. It also depends on the thickness of the matzah. The thinner matzah, matzah goes like is going to be a different weight as a thicker matzah.
Right. So the thinner matzot, you're probably going to need to eat more, probably even a half, maybe even more than a half. So he's going to say over here. Actually, the best thing to do is that before the Seder, to actually prepare for everybody already, prepare for everybody a little bag with a bag, whatever that's on the side, matzot shmura already cut up into pieces that are a kazayit. So this way, when you give it out, you take a little piece from the motzi, a little piece from the achilat matzah, and you give them shmura matzah with it up to a kazayit, and they eat it. He says the same thing you have to do for maror also. You have to already prepare it beforehand. I mean, technically, you can use a non-battery operated scale on Yom Tov, right, to measure stuff out. But who's going to sit in the middle of the Seder now? Let me start measuring and stuff. So, that's why we're learning this now. So we be ahead of the game. Yes.
Rabbi Mansur, he he said like depends. Everybody's using different matzot. So let's say you got your matzot supply. You measure one kazait, what it's gonna be like, and then you weigh this amount. Let's say it comes out, I don't know, 23 gram. Let's say. So you already the rest of the stuff you don't need to like measure. You go just by the weight. You put
Based on what
23,
you have on that
23.
one piece.
Yeah, you did one based on the sug of the matzot you got, and you put it in the bags. And when people need to have a kazaitot, they already have the ready kazaitot.
You go based on that. All right.
Yeah.
That works out. That's probably better too. You're sitting there whole Erev Pesach cutting up all matzot.
Yeah.
Simple, right?
Yeah.
Has mazel v'gedol.
Yeah, they actually in the Syrian Haggadah from Shari Rachamim, they actually have on the page like a diagram that says if you're eating hand matzah, it should be about this size. If you're eating mashim matzah, it should be about this size. They give you some sort of general idea of how much to eat. Okay, so we said you have to eat it within 4 minutes and max between 7 and 5 minutes. And this, by the way, is a big issue, especially with the ladies. They think they have a whole night to eat the matzah, and they have a chiyuv to eat matzah as well. Chiyuv of us, right? So they have to. You have to really kind of encourage them, remind them that they need to finish it within 7.5 minutes. Tell them 6.5 minutes. This way, when they say, "Can I have a little more time?" you say, "Yes." You have another minute. This way, you're the nice guy. Okay. Fine. He says over here one more thing. What he says to do, he says that the leader, when giving out the matzah on Pesach night, he says he says he should eat a little bit of matzah first. Then he should distribute to everybody. Then he should take his 2 kizaitim and then eat it. Because if he's going to sit and try to eat during the 7-5 minutes and while he's passing around, it's not going to work out. So he says, take a little bit, eat it without reclining, just to eat matzah, because you said the matzah. Give out to everybody, and then lean to your left and finish it up within 7.5 minutes. Okay. Continuing on. Okay, so here in the surah he says, "Shir kazayit yeshoimrim dehavi kachatzi beitza." It's like half an egg. The Kaf Chaim says, "V'chein minig achsha poshet etzel bali ha'ir shlashar kol shirim dahayne kazayit matzah v'pesach kulam b'mashkel v'ein l'shnot." All of them by weight, and don't change them. However, ikar din baruch kol shiurim oskim b'nefa v'loy b'mashkel. You're gonna do it by volume and not by weight. Between volume and weight, right? Volume would be dispersion, right? You would take something in, throw it into water, and see how much comes out. That would be your volume. Well, whereas his weight, however, this is Chacham Ovadia or Mordechai Eliyahu, that today most of the Sephardim go with weight when being checking these things, especially like matzah and maror and stuff like that. Makes it easier also to do the measurements. Okay. Now we're going to learn a little bit about matzah shmura. Shmura matzah.
Rabbi Moshe?
Yes.
For Sephardim, per se, your father or somebody, they ever eat soft matzah?
We had this question this morning about soft matzah. No, I'm saying, what about soft matzah? Well, can you have it or not? Says Betach, sure, of course.
I don't know about Sephardim like us around the circles, how we do it. I know Ashkenazim don't do it.
So interestingly, Rabbi Shai Tahan put out an article last week. It's the Pas Shabbat in his. He puts out a weekly bulletin. I don't know if you ever see it.
Yeah, I read it, but I wasn't sure about Bukharis, how we did.
Did you see what he said? He said even Ashkenazim in the past used to eat soft matzah. Right. It possibly that everyone at some point used to eat soft matzah. From a lot of the halachot, a lot of the writings in the Sfarim, the Rishonim, everywhere, it seems to indicate, that's what he was bringing down in the article, that everyone ate soft matzah. Do we eat soft matzah? It's definitely not chametz, so it's definitely matzah. So if you're comfortable with it, and you ask your Rav, and he says it's okay, go ahead with it. I mean, I've seen a lot of people today eating it now. And Baruch Hashem, they have very good hashkachot in the Syrian community that they make it. People have it. And you can eat it like kazayit, and it's easier to eat and easier to make a sandwich with it. and it's easier to make a dollar and above with it. Yeah, listen, everyone does what works for them. I think right as the Gemara meant when it meant matzah. I tell you that amongst Bukhari and Samarkand and all these people, you show them to the elder people. You show them soft matzah. They're like, this is not matzah. For them, matzah is what we today call matzah. Usually, it's the thick cracker-like thing from Lubavitch. Right.
No, we made our own.
No, they made their own matzah. Well, maybe later on.
No, talk about.
Okay, fine. No. Yeah, but it's again, it seems to be that everyone's
the square one. We did always round.
They made
We
matzah.
made our own.
Later on, they made.
No,
After Chabad Shalom.
Before Chabad was even around.
Okay. Anyway, so now we're gonna come to matzah shmura. Shmura matzah. What is shmura matzah? Well, it comes from the word of shomer, which means to watch, to guard the matzah. There are three categories of shmura matzah. What are the three categories of shmura matzah? Right? It's watch from when it was harvested, once it was cut. It was watched from when? There's three opinions. Who remembers the three opinions of when it was shmura matzah?
The water would not, once it's ready.
For the time of grinding. Okay, so harvesting, when you collect it, that's the highest standard of shmura matzah. The time of grinding it, when you make it into a flour, the least amount that's still called matzah shmura matzah, is when you mix the water with the flour. Okay, that's the minimum. What's still called shmura matzah. Now, why do you need to have shmura matzah? First of all, this is what we say is guarding the matzah. But is that enough to be considered shmura matzah, or you need to have another aspect to it? So the Rambam says shmura matzah just means watching it. You just watch it. His hiru b'matzah v'shamru otom mikol tzad chamotz. You want to make sure it doesn't become chametz. However, Rashi adds on another point of what it means shmura matzah. Kol shimur she'ata mishmara shelo tachmitz hitkaven l'shem matzah shel mitzvah. So Rashi adds on, you know what shmur matzah also means? That you're having kavanah, that you're making this mitzvah matzah mitzvah, right? You have to have kavanah that you're making this matzah for the Pesach. Because you can have matzah, that's just matzah, not chametz, but it didn't have intention to make this for Pesach. And in order to be shmur matzah, according to Rashi, you need to have that as well. Shulchan Aruch says it's best to guard the wheat used for making matzah for the mitzvah, that no water touch them from the time of harvesting, when you cut it, and at least from the time of grinding, when you make it into a flour. And he says, "B'shat hadchag mutar likach kemach min hashuk." You're allowed to get kemach from the marketplace. So then that stage would be shmur matzah from the time you put the water to the flour. Yeah, so he says you can take kemach min hashuk b'shat hadchag, because kemach is not chametz, right? Kemach is kemach.
So this is the harvesting.
That's the highest standard of matzah shmura is from the harvesting. That's why you're paying, what is it, $35, $40, $34, $40 a pound now, right? For top shmura matzah. Rafal, you had a question?
Yeah. So what if like the 18 minutes passed and people like didn't make it in time, and there's dough left over? What do you do?
Well, if the dough is sitting 18 minutes without being kneaded and touched and done something with,
They're in the middle of doing the process, but 18 minutes just like it was finished.
so it became chametz. So it became. I know I'm saying, but he's asking if it became chametz. If it became chametz, then you have to get rid of it. It's not matzah. It's a loss. But it won't become chametz unless you left it alone for 18 minutes.
During the process.
You see, so as long as they're still banging it, rocking it, doing something with it, it's not going to become chametz. So once you're letting it sit for a while, right, then it's going to become chametz. And if it became chametz, then you have to throw it out. It's not matzah. I mean, you can eat it during the year, but.
I have to read like the special temperature, then like it won't become chametz no matter what.
This I don't know. This is maybe some high class matzot. Okay, Now, okay. Mishnah Berurah says that we paskin like Rashi, and that you have to have the kavanah of making the matzah for the mitzvah. Okay. Now how much? If you need a shmur matzah, do you need to have shmur matzah a whole Pesach or not?
No.
You don't need to have shmur matzah the whole Pesach. Why not?
You only have the mitzvah the first night.
Because you need it for the mitzvah, right? So if you need it for the mitzvah is only on the first night.
Even then, it's only the first desire. And probably have to come in also. Only the first two Kazayim, only not.
Five.
First two Kazayim and have to come in. What five? What five?
So he says in the Bir Halacha,
What's it called?
V'ayin b'Rambam, look at the Rambam, that he says, the Rambam says, that his opinion, the achal matzah shochel b'Pesach, the akol matzah shochel b'Pesach, all the matzah that he eats on Pesach, tzarech shimur. According to the Rambam, all the matzah you eat on Pesach needs to be shmur matzah. But remember Rambam, what did the Rambam say shmur matzah? It's just so they didn't come chametz, right? You have to watch it to make sure it didn't become chametz, right? It was Rashi who said that shmur matzah means you had kavana that the matzah also is going to be l'shem mitzvah. So, right. So if you're going with the Rambam's opinion that you need shmur matzah for the whole Pesach, and you're holding that shmur matzah means you have kavana for the mitzvah, so then you're going to need mitzvah mitzvah the whole Pesach, according to that. Yeah. So he brings over here the Pnini Halacha that says yesh midaktikim leechol b'chol Pesach matzah shmurot b'shnei tamim lekach echad sheyesh soivim shem ein choy b'leechol matzah b'chol Pesach b'kol malkam ha'echol mekayim mitzvah. Some hold that you don't have to eat matzah all Pesach, but if you eat matzah on Pesach, it is a mitzvah. Right? Usually people say there's no mitzvah to eat, but if you do eat matzah on Pesach, even the rest of the days, there are those opinions that then it becomes a mitzvah. Because you're worried about it becoming chametz, right? Someone says, "Oh, it's just matzah. It's matzah. We don't know. We weren't watching it the whole time. We just baked it within less than 18 minutes, and it's all good." But no one actually was there to make sure not coming in chametz. So the all the food that we have in Pesach, a matzah is the most that can become chametz. It's actual wheat and flour. That's the one that can become the most chametz. Your potato starch cookie, the lady fingers, not lady fingers anymore. Fingers are not going to become chametz. Sit there on the shelf for 100 years, not going to become chametz. So then you have to be worried that it's going to become chametz. So according to this, you should eat shmur matzah the whole Pesach. We're going to take a look at the Yalkut Yosef in a minute about what he says about shmur matzah versus the whole Pesach and not. But before we go there, we have one more issue to deal with. This is the machine matzah. Okay, what is the din about machine matzah? The Avnei Nezer brings down the Ger Rebbe, the Gaon of Tzanz, the Gaon of Chechanov, who all said that machine matzah is completely asur. Person who eats it, it's like he's having tzarat. It's hamet begamri. So according to, and there seems to be a bunch of great admorim of the Hasidim, and they all said that the machine matzah is forbidden. Don't touch. Here he brings from Rav Moshe Harari, the Mikra Kodesh, and he brings down from Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach that one may fulfill the obligation of mitzvah of matzah at the Seder with machine matzot as well. And you can say the bracha of al achilat matzah on machine matzot as well. He asked them which one is better, hand matzah or machine matzah. He said if they supervise them very well, then the hand matzah are preferred. So hand matzah are more preferable than machine matzah, but you could use machine matzah. He brings over here the same from Rav Adi Yosef, the Chassidik Bracha, who says that you want to comply with all opinions on the first night. The first night, if you can stay away from machine matzah, we're talking about shmur machine matzah. If you can stay away from shmur machine matzah on the first night, all the better. You should use hand matzah. But shat chak, if you need to use machine matzah, there's no other matzah available, and you have shmur machine matzah, you're allowed to even say the bracha about chilat matzah on it. During the rest of the chag, machine matzah is considered shmur matzah enough to eat it the rest of the chag. So eating machine matzah for the rest of the chag is not going to be an issue according to Chamawadia. So that's pretty much what we do, right? Most of us would do that. We eat hand matzah, that's shmur matzah from the time of harvesting. That's why you're paying the big bucks for it. Hopefully, that's what we're doing. And then we do eat machine matzah during the rest of the week. And listen, if a person has the ability to stay away from machine matzah, the whole Pesach, even better. He said over here, even those who are machmer, strict to eat shmur matzah the whole chag, matzah that are made from machines. Pesach. So it's permissible to eat machine-made matzah as long as it has the shmur matzah the rest of Pesach. So it comes out that what? It comes out that we should eat shmur matzah 100%. Shmur matzah from harvesting. If you have shmur matzah from grinding, from when it came flour, also okay. Shatat chak, even regular flour, when it hits the water, if you need to do from there, it's also considered shmur matzah. Hand matzah is more preferable than machine matzah. Machine matzah is definitely okay in the rest of the days of the chag. And that's personally my minhag as well, is that I'll eat hand matzah the first 2 nights, and the rest of the chag I eat machine matzah. It's easier to on my bite. It's easier on my stomach. It's also tastes better to me, at least, on the machine matzah. It tastes more like air. I like stuff that tastes like air. It's lighter. It's this, that. So it works out better for me. And here you have a makar, you have the source. That is fine. Of course, shmur. Now, according to Rashi, shmur matzah means you have to have kavanah. That means that where they're making the machine matzot, the mashgiach there, whoever is making sure the matzot are coming out kosher, and they start the machines, they have to say that this is the shem matzah mitzvah. This is going to be for shmur matzah. If they didn't do that, then it's not shmur matzah. Yes.
When we say first 2 days have to be matzah shmura, does it mean during the daytime meals as well, or just the Seder night?
It seems to be just the Seder, because when you're doing it for the mitzvah itself, the mitzvah itself.
And the man must, sorry.
Mm-hmm. No, go ahead,
the man has to make his own matzah?
Does he have to make his own matzah? No.
Yeah, is it like it's not a matzah? Is it like a good thing to do?
It's a very good thing. If you can go and be part of a chabura and make matzah, it's the best thing to do. In fact, if you're making matzah and you're sweating, it's a big pikabal. Your sins are being erased. And there's a lot of good things that you get from it. But no, you don't have to make your own matzah. Now, what I do want to say that there's also an inyan of eating matzot that were baked after Chatzot Erev Pesach. Okay, so this year that means Friday after Chatzot. They make matzah from then, because this was the time already that they would bring the korban Pesach. So you're making the matzot then, it has something to do with the korban Pesach. So they would actually sell this. My father, should live and be well, every year gets 3 matzot that were baked Erev Pesach. Each matzah last year, each piece, no, not that much. It was going for $13, $14 a piece. 1 piece of matzah, full shalem, baked after Chatzot. He was getting for that much, but he wasn't getting the very thin one. He wasn't getting the shatzer one. He was getting it from the Borough Park matzah bakery. Borough Park. and he was getting it for $14 a piece. So this year, I imagine it's much more. And I remember as a kid, my father used to get the Shatzer matzahs, Erev Pesach matzahs. We used to order on matzahs some Purim. We used to go to Rabbi Reuben and 11th and Fort Hamilton in 58. We used to go there and order our matzahs on Pesach, and we would pick it up right before Pesach, about an hour before Chag. And we have our whole matzah, and on the top we would have our 3 Erev Pesach matzot. So there's a big inning in doing that also. But what for the kara?
One night.
It's one night. What do you want us to buy 6 matzot? Yosef, you buy any of those matzot? Okay, so that's it. Don't ask. That's it. You get, then you ask. All right, fine. Moving on. Any questions on this part? Okay, let's move on to the next siman of the Seder. What goes after motzi matzah? You have maror. We have the mitzvah of maror. Why are we eating maror on Pesach? We're eating maror to remind us of the bitter time they had in Mitzrayim. Okay, what does that affect? That would affect that you don't have to lean when you're eating maror. Whatever you're doing that reminds you of the bitterness, you don't have to lean. So, what's the source? The Tzur Merabbanan brings down the pasuk. V'achalut habasar b'layla hazeh tzli esh umatzot al merorim yochluhu. You have to eat matzot and maror with the carbon Pesach. So, is maror deoraita or derabanan today? Okay, so you have to eat it with the carbon Pesach. Matzah, we already learned, is a separate pasuk. Separate pasuk. Is there a separate pasuk for maror? No, there is not. Matzah is manazeh deoraita, maror derabanan. Ma'ishno maror. What's the maror? Dichtiv al matzot marim bisman de'eka Pesach. Yesh maror. Was man de'eka Pesach le'eka maror. Matzah nami haktiv al matzot marim. Matzah meider hadar by kara be'er tachlu matzot. Matzah has its own pasuk, and then evening you're going to eat matzah. So you have a separate pasuk. The matzah is deoraita today. However, maror is going to be derabanan, and that's what the Rambam says. Beferish achilat maror enu mitzvah min Torah mipnei atzma. It's not a mitzvah in itself from the Torah. Ela teluya hi ba'achilat Pesach. It's all connected to the carbon Pesach. Shemitzvat aseh achat lechol basar haPesach al matzah umrorim u'midivrei sofrim. But from the sofrim, le'echol, we have a mitzvah le'echol maror levado b'leil zeh afilu ein sham carbon Pesach. We eat a maror to remind us of the maror, and the maror that we ate in the carbon Pesach. That's a mitzvah derabanan today. Now, what is considered maror? What is maror? Amar Rabbi Oshaya, mitzvah b'chazeret. Chazeret is what? Rava ma chazeret chasa. This is chasa. What's chasa? Chasa is romaine lettuce. Okay, and then the Mishnah brought down other stuff that are considered maror, such as the horseradish and other items that are bitter. The big question about maror is everybody gets all excited about is that the lettuce that we use is not really bitter, right? So they explain that maror really, if you keep it in the ground longer, right? The lettuce, you keep it in the ground longer, the longer you keep it in, the more bitter it gets. And they say that's what's comparable to the shibud in Mitzrayim. The shibud in Mitzrayim was, we came there, was nice and sweet. So lettuce is nice and sweet in the beginning. And at the end, it got bitter. So now the maror could be bitter. So it's considered the species of maror. And as long as it's a species of maror, you don't have to actually have it bitter. That's what we say a lot of times. So therefore, since it's a species of maror, it will get bitter eventually. You don't have to actually eat it bitter. You can eat it the way it is. So romaine lettuce, which today used commonly in many salads and stuff like that, is end up being used as the maror. Now, can a person put something bitter onto the romaine lettuce in order to make it bitter so he feels maror? So if it's not from the min of maror, if it's not one of the marors that are allowed to be used, you're not allowed to do the same thing. You had a question about using the matzah with avocado spread, make it easier to eat. Because what happens now, you're not eating the matzah, you're eating the avocado spread. The same thing with the maror. If you're going to mask the taste of the lettuce, you want to make it bitter, and you put an artificial bitter flavor to it, and you're no longer eating the lettuce. You're eating an artificial flavor, and therefore it's not going to be considered maror. You have to be very careful like that. Also, something else. Is, I'm bringing this from the Yalkut Yosef. You also have to be careful. You can't eat maror that was pickled. Okay, so you can't. And the problem with this is vinegar. They actually sell. You'll see in the Ashkenazic stores. They sell the gold horseradish. Right, it's horseradish that they shred before and they put it into a little bottle. Well, guess what that horseradish is sitting in?
Sugar,
Vinegar, sugar, and everything. So that definitely cannot be used as horseradish. And a lot of unaffiliated Jews or Jews who don't know better buy it, thinking it's going to be horseradish. Or Shashiva talked about it. The Rabbi said, he knows people who, people didn't know better. They go in horseradish, mar, why not? And they bring it to the table and they're using it, and it's not considered maror at all because it's been pickled. And it's pickled, it's not considered the flavor of the maror. So that's a problem thing as well. So Shulchan Aruch says, which one is the ikar of the different species of maror? He says, v'ikar ha-mitzvah b'chazer. The mitzvah is with lettuce. Lettuce is the ikar mitzvah. The romaine, lettuce is the most important one. That's the one we use. The main usage of lettuce today is before it becomes bitter. This is from Chazon Ish. And the Chazer commonly spoken about and used by people is the sweet one. The Chazon Ish wants to say, therefore, it shouldn't be considered maror. Chazon Ish had a problem with the maror that we use in the romaine lettuce. He says it's not bitter. The whole thing is supposed to be bitter. So some people, what they want to do, what they kind of do, is they add a little horseradish to their maror. Now, technically, that would be okay. Why? Because it's from the same min of maror. It's another min of maror. It's a permissible form of maror. It's very hard to eat a kazayit of horseradish. One year we tried to do that. It didn't work out. And you're talking about 28 grams of horseradish. You can't eat it. It's impossible. Unless you.
How Ashkenazis doing that?
I don't know if they're eating kazayit. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. I have no idea. But you can't keep the charoset on it. You have to shake the charoset off it.
So what's the point?
Of maror? One
How do
kazayit.
you have to do that?
Karach, okay, yeah, but karach is karach. You're already wrapping around the matzah. You mask the taste a little bit. Mar, you're putting it into the charoset, but then you have to shake it off. No, you have to shake it off. It's not because then you're not eating the maror. You're eating the charoset.
What's the point?
No, I will tell you. Don't get confused. Maror, you take it, you dip it in, and then you shake it off. The bricks, the mortar, and the blood, and all that. Yes, that's why it says. That's why you do it, but you don't keep it on the maror. All you're doing is it because it says there's a poison in the maror, so you're dipping into the charoset to get rid of the. To get rid of the poison, bitterness, whatever you want to call it. For the sandwich, you don't have to shake it off. For the sandwich, you don't have to shake it off. What? You actually, for the sandwich, you dip it together when you put the maror with the matzah. Then you dip it into the haroset, and you do not have to shake it off. No, you dip it. It's dipping. It's tovel. You dip it. To spread it?
Yeah. To dry.
You make a real sandwich. You gotta spread it out. What's this dipping?
To dry.
That's a sandwich. Okay.
Shulchan Aruch Harav. So this is Harav Shneir Zalman Alidai. This is the Balatanya. Very, very, very phenomenal work in Halacha. Shulchan Aruch Harav, used and sourced by everyone. It says as follows: Alpha P Shachazer Emba Merirut. There's no maror. There's no bitterness. When it's in the ground and it gets hard, and it gets very, very bitter. And it's a mitzvah to look for it, even when it is sweet. So you see here from Shulchan Aruch Harav that's okay as long as it's maror, it's lettuce. Even if it's sweet lettuce, it's okay to use that for maror. So you don't have to go ahead and add on any horseradish to give it a bitter feel to it. What I like to do is that during the Seudah, I have a little horseradish just to taste what my Ashkenazic brethren are trying to eat for maror. We have a game with it, how much more you can have, whatever, you play with it a little, but you don't eat it for the maror because you cannot eat a really kazayit from it. Okay. All right, and it brings from the Minchat Asher over here that says, who says that horseradish is bitter? Because one person's bitterness is someone else's sweetness. So you're going to tell me find something bitter, you're never going to find something bitter. Maybe for me, nothing's bitter. I don't have, the different parts in your mouth that taste different tastes. My bitter taste is out. I don't taste it. So people have COVID, right? Had COVID and lost taste, and some people didn't get their taste buds back. They gave them maror, put horseradish in their mouth. They're not bitter for them. So what, they weren't yatsa maror now? They were. They ate maror. So that's what Rav Asher Weiss and Michal Asher wants to say in defense of the lettuce not being bitter. So this is what we do. We eat lettuce. What I just want to segue about when eating lettuce, you have to make sure that they're going to be clean from bugs. Okay, if you can't clean them yourself, you have to get them from a place that's reputable. I know in Queens, if you have places that do it for you, very good. But in Rego Park, for you guys that are there, I don't know how busy Johnny is, but Rabbi Johnny Yusupov, he's a bucky in cleaning bugs. If you can get him to do it for you, and he charges per bag or whatever it is, he's a bucky to do it. I had one do it. We have over here Yosef Chaim of Mashgiach from the Vad of 5 towns, very, very big bucky as well in the Toloyim. But if any of your wives went to Rabbi Gedayev's classes and you spend money on it, it would be nice to see the investment in your money so you can let them clean it for you. Okay, what happened? Okay. Yes, Malkiel.
Is there any revival company you can buy from Bingo? The check romaine lettuce from Bingo.
Yeah, Bingo. Yeah.
Is there any reliable romaine lettuce? It's usually packaged over there. I don't know the company so well. Is there anything that
I'm not going to say which company yes or your company no. They have hashgachas on it. They have a chasisha hashgachas.
Who do I ask then?
Rabbi Gedayev. That's Rabbi Gedayev. He's the box in Toloyim. Yeah. Okay. Bug free. Right.
But then it says on it, it must be washed, and it's not bug free.
Oh wow.
It's known to be bug free,
but they didn't check it. It's just easier to check. They're saying.
No, it is full of flies.
Oh wow.
Sand and everything. So
be careful. So even if it's gush katif, you gotta check it.
You'll see the words over there. It's clearly
must wash.
Must be washed and checked, even though.
So I'd say, for example, Malkiel, they have the Bodek company, and it has a good hashgacha on it. Seish hashgacha. See them buy it. Ask Rabbi Gedayev. I don't think he's very inclined to say that the Bodek company he would rely for their checking up to life. So you see which ones he says okay, which ones not. Everyone asks the Rav or whoever is your mashpia that tells you how to do things, and somebody saw you go along with that. Gedayev did say that there are certain stores in Queens that they have good mashgichim. I think he said, I don't know if it's still applicable today, but he said Aaron's Center Farms has a good mashgiach for checking Toloyim. And most of the mashgichim, he said, the Vad of 5 towns are good to check as well. So, although our expert here disagrees with that statement. Okay. All right. I think we pretty much touched everything in Mar that we needed to. How do you eat your Mar? You eat your Mar, you have to eat a kazait of it, right? Every time it's achila is a kazait. So you have to eat about 27, 28 grams of maror. Okay? Once in the maror, and then once again in korach. But what? How many leaves? Depending on how thick and big is your leaf. Usually the stalks have more weight to it, right? So they would be more. You want to eat more of the stalks versus the leaves.
On the scale.
Put it on the scale. You don't lean for it because it's seichel avdut. We make a bracha of al achilat maror. Okay. And you dip the entirely into charoset, but you're not allowed to leave it inside. You have to remove, shake off the charoset from it because you have to taste the maror. It's not.
But it's not kosher because at the end of the day we say the pasta is not bitter anyway. So
But it's not the bitterness taste that you need to taste. You have to taste the lettuce.
right. So therefore the lettuce is not so bitter. So we're not really looking at the bitterness. We're not looking at the
There's nothing to do with the bitterness. I need to taste lettuce. If I'm putting it in charoset, it's going to taste like charoset. So I need to taste lettuce. So I need to put into the charoset. It's better to dip it as far as you can. And then you take it out and you shake it off. I know what the kids like to do. Take the maror and they and they pick it up. No. Okay, you're gonna have a lot of explaining to the ladies to do this, yeah, and to the kids. Okay, you can tell them this is not the way to do it. Afterwards, during the suudah, you eat your charoset. What's it called in Bukhari? The charoset, chalika, right? You eat your chalika. Take it, do whatever you want with it. But make sure you leave over for the second night also. Okay, don't get too excited. Make it again. All right. We dip it to kill the poison. That's why we dip it into it. Some don't. Rishabura says some don't dip it in all the way. Shulchan says to dip it in all the way. And the Alpi Kabbalah, it's very important to dip it in all the way. Rishabura says some people didn't put it in all the way because they didn't want to mask the taste. You have a big piece of maror lettuce.
No, but this full container of
Also, you got a big container.
It's not gonna go all the way. It's gonna go just look at it.
Okay, so as far as you can get it in.
That's what we take a spoon with sweet.
Okay, now, do we make a hadama on the maror or not? No, we don't. But why don't we? As we said already. Okay, but there's also another reason. There's another reason. Why? Because he just made hamotzi. He made hamotzi, and vegetables are part of. So if a person said hadama on karpas, and then he made a burn the pashot, which he wasn't supposed to, but he did. But he wasn't supposed to, but he did. And he did. We talked about this already. He already did it. No. So does he have to make another Adam on the Mar? No, he will not make another Adam on the Mar because you made hamotzi. Once you make hamotzi, it's going to be involved. All right, let's see if we can get through korech over here, the sandwich. So why do we make the sandwich? Okay, the pasuk says al matzot u'merim yochluhu. You have to eat it. Rabbi Yochanan says we'd eat it separate. That's why we eat it separate. Matzah separate, mar separate. Matzah mar, that's what it means. Hillel said, no, when it says matzot u'merim yochluhu, that means you have to eat it together. Therefore, he would make a sandwich and eat it. And the Gemara says, hash lo itmer hilchata. You didn't say the halacha like Hillel, like Rabbanan, not like the Rabbanan, and not like Hillel. So mevarech al achilat matzah v'acha. We say al achilat matzah and we eat it. V'hader mevarech al achilat maror v'achil, and you make al achilat maror and you eat the maror. V'hader achal matzah v'chasa v'hader hadadei b'lo bracha zechel l'mikdash kehillel. Since you don't know who the halacha is, we're going to do first establish it and eat it like the Rabbanan, each one separate, and then we're going to eat it together. And that's what Shulchan Aruch says. Now you take the third matzah. Remember, we used 3 matzot. Every matzah has to have a mitzvah with it. Now that's where you're getting the third matzah. You take the third matzah. And you eat it leaning, reclining. You should eat it reclining. Umishivarch al chilat matzah. And Rabbi Yosef, from when you make al chilat matzah, lo yasiach b'diber she'enu me'inyan ha'seudah. You shouldn't be speaking stuff that are not related to the seudah. Ad she'echal kricha zo, until you eat korach, until you eat the sandwich. Kidei she'ta'aleh brakat achilat matzah brakat achilat maror gam kricha zo. Because the sandwich is part of matzah and maror. It's the opinion of Hillel. Hillel's opinion was you eat it together. So your bracha of al chilat matzah, your bracha of al chilat maror has to apply to that as well. So therefore, there should be no talking from the time of al chilat matzah and al chilat maror. Okay, let's take a look at the Yalkut Yosef. It says over here.
Rabbi Moshe, Maror is Midarabanan, right?
Maror is Derabanan, that's correct. Maror is Derabanan. So he says exactly like we just broke down. He takes the third matzah and he makes it. You have to remember, you should recline. But if someone does not recline, he does not have to eat it again. Why is that? The Ravaya argued and said, I'm sorry, not the Ravaya. Shulchan Aruch that we brought down said that you have to lean, right, when you're making korach. Now, why would you not want? Why do you think you don't have to lean? It's because of the maror. In fact, this is Reptilian. This is amazing. We know that the Yosef Kara wrote a sefer Magid Misharim, right? An angel came to speak to him and told him halakha and told him a lot of stuff. You know what the angel told him? And he writes it down. The angel told him that when you eat korach, the sandwich, you do not lean. Do not lean. Yet the Shulchan Aruch put in the Shulchan Aruch that you do lean, because we don't go according to what the angel says. We go according to what the poskim hold, and therefore, since most poskim say to lean, therefore you're going to lean. But since there are opinions that you don't have to lean because you're eating the maror as well, therefore a person forgot and didn't lean, it doesn't have to go ahead and eat it all over. No need to shake off the excess haroset. When it comes to korach, you can add the haroset. You do not have to shake it off. You can have your sandwich. I didn't take everything away from you. Okay, the sandwich you can keep your extra haroset on. Okay. Fine. Someone forgot to eat korach. He didn't eat the sandwich altogether, and he already did mayim achorim for birkat hamazon. He does not have to do it because he already fulfilled his mitzvah of matzah and maror with al chilat matzah, al chilat maror. So if you didn't do the sandwich, and now it's already birkat hamazon time, you do not have to go back to make it. Okay? So, Lamar said we're going to stop over here for now. We're just going to review basically the shiurim, what you need to eat. From motzi matzah, the Baal HaSeder definitely should eat 2 kazaitim, 1 kazait from the top matzah, 1 kazait from the middle matzah, from the broken matzah. Everyone else who you're giving shmura matzah from, they only have to eat a kazait. Everything should be eaten within 4 minutes, max 7.5 minutes. Yeah, shmura matzah, but not the Baal HaSeder should try to eat 2 kazaitim from the 2 matzot. From the top, no, there's enough. From the other ones you give. From the other, if you give a little bit from top and the bottom, and then you give them from shmura matzah. And they only have to eat a kazait. When it comes to maror, everyone has to eat a kazait. You take it from lettuce. When it comes to korach, when it comes to the sandwich, it's 1 kazait matzah, 1 kazait of maror. And that's how you're going to end up eating at this point right now. We're not up to afikomen yet. Okay. At this point already, the Baal HaSeder should have eaten 3 kazaitim of matzah, 2 for motzi matzah, 1 for the sandwich, and 2 kazaitim of maror. This is where we're holding right now. Okay. B'ezrat Hashem, next week we'll get into we'll finish up the Hilchot Seder. B'ezrat Hashem. Okay. Any questions, guys? We're good. All right. Shut off the recording.